probably not going to be traded out, because if you fall off the map in 3 years, you're a quarter of the way through your contract, and the Marlins, they don't know what to do with you. They can't release you. They can't. The only hope they have is trading you, and then what happens then? Would a team pick up, they're 9 years remaining on a contract that's just gonna shred the payroll? But that's just the what ifs. But Stanton, he has an incredible career ahead of him. I'm just being, very hypothetical in, the what ifs, an injury, a Derrick Rose type of situation. Once you have a major injury, you're gonna have lingering injuries throughout your career. But I'll get to Derrick Rose after this commercial break. Giancarlo Stanton, will he get his contract? We'll talk about that in a future show, or maybe we'll talk about his new contract, very shortly. But we'll put that on hold. We'll be talking about the NBA after this commercial break here on Spreaker.com in affiliation with the National Sports Radio Station.
Every time that you get undressed, I hear symphonies in my head. I wrote this song just looking at you. Oh, yeah, the drums they swing low, and the trumpets they go, and the trumpets they go. Yeah, the trumpets they go.
Welcome back to Pro Sports Outlook. My name is Stephen Hughes, back here on the National Sports Radio Station. And pretty much, let's go right into the NBA. Just looking at the teams that are having a fast start to the season: Golden State, Houston, Memphis, Toronto, Chicago, even without Derrick Rose. It's what you expect of teams that you're looking at the playoffs. Golden State, Houston, and Memphis. Those three teams, maybe not Memphis, but Golden State and Houston, those are going to be the two teams that you're going to look at, come May, and you're going to think those teams are going to make a huge, they're going to make a small step going towards their hopes of the NBA Finals, or they're going to make a huge step. Even if the Spurs are still in the way. The Spurs, they're a great team. It's just veteran leadership, Adam Sebastian, and Kawhi Leonard leading the way, being the future of the Spurs. But, the Golden State Warriors, some team is going to take over the reins of the Western Conference out of the Spurs' hands, per se. Golden State, Houston, those two teams will be on the top of your minds probably. Also the Clippers, maybe. They've had a bit of a cold start. They kind of, there's some off the court issues also with Blake Griffin. They did lose to the Warriors. They got pounded by the Warriors. It's their first meeting of the year, but it's a cause for concern, because Klay Thompson, ever since he signed that extension to stick with the Warriors for a few more years and a lot more money, he has been nonstop. He has been unbelievable. He's been now continued. He's now really stepped up to his status as a really, really good shooting guard, a really good perimeter shooter, alongside his splash brother and Steph Curry, who's an absolute animal. Houston, they're kind of downgraded with Chandler Parsons. They had the opportunity to get back Chandler Parsons, but it was just a weird sequence of events. Houston was trying to get Chris Bosh. The Mavs made a qualifying offer on Chandler Parsons. The Rockets said no on the qualifying offer, letting Parsons go. The Rockets never got Bosh, so it was a big lose-lose for Houston. Coming the season, who's going to fill in that small forward role? But the small forward role has never really been the issue. It's it's now James Harden and Dwight Howard doing their thing, which is really cool. James Harden being the player that we've all seen, hopefully most of us have seen the last couple of years. He's just been dominant. Not a great defender, everybody can joke about that, but his offensive work and his offensive stats are just incredible. And Dwight Howard, he has his games where he kind of takes a little dive, relaxes a bit. He sat out the game against the Warriors. He had a flu, all that stuff. But Dwight Howard, when he is in the game, full set, he is a complete beast. He is unstoppable, except for the free throw line. Gotcha. But Houston and Golden State, those are the two teams we're going to see out of the Western Conference that are going to be big. Toronto will probably be a dark horse in my opinion. Re-signing Kyle Lowry was absolutely huge. It was huge for the Toronto Raptors. They'll probably rumors were saying that they were going to lose Lowry to Miami. There are huge struggles with the point guard position, especially in the NBA Finals, with Norris Cole and Mario Chalmers really struggling to really contribute and be productive out of that point guard spot that really needs to be productive, especially with a group that has Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James being the centerpieces. If you can't get the ball passing to them and getting the system going, then there's really no point in setting up the system, and then right then and there you're playing pretty much street ball. You're pretty much give the ball to LeBron, give them to Wade, and go just give to them and see if they do something. And you can't just rely all that on your big three last year. But re-signing Kyle Lowry was huge for Toronto, and they have a great start to the year. Amir Johnson, he's the guy in the front court that's doing a tremendous job. Kind of being the old Chris Bosh, not entirely the old Chris Bosh, but being that big man that can be an instant impact for this Toronto team. Their offense is incredible. Their defense is also incredible. Things are just clicking on both ends for the Raptors. So, this team, in my opinion, will be a dark horse. And then, of course, everybody's talking about out of the Eastern Conference, the Bulls and the Cavaliers. I'm gonna pick the Bulls just as a more complete team. The Cavaliers, they'll be definitely the Heat of 2011. Great team. Kind of a iffy start, but at the same time, they're gonna find a click and they're gonna do something big. They're gonna put some big wins, but I don't see them winning an NBA Finals this year. I'll see them definitely winning an NBA Finals next year. But this year is going to be kind of like, it's not a rebuilding year, but it's kind of like it was a really good offseason for the Cavaliers. They trade Andrew Wiggins for Kevin Love. You get Kevin Love. You get LeBron James. You hooked them up with Kyrie Irving, who got a big offseason new contract to stay with the team, like 5 years, $90 million or some big number like that. But, this Cavaliers team, it'll take a lot of work, especially with a new coach with no NBA experience in David Blatt. So we'll just see how things progress. But I think the Bulls will be the team out of the Eastern Conference that goes to the NBA Finals. So it'll be, in my opinion, Bulls and Rockets. The Spurs, they're just getting too old. I mean, how many rest games is Greg Popovich going to give Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili? And then for those rest games, you have a big under 500 record. When I say big under 500 record, I say out of 20 games that they rest, I say probably 6-14, and that's a mark that, if Greg Popovich wants to continue that, obviously he's done really well, but I think it's starting to it's getting to the point of the end for all three of those players, and hopefully they will retire soon, because when they're on the same team, they're too dominant, unfortunately. And the Derrick Rose situation, we go to the Bulls. And so Bulls, Rockets in the finals. That'll be a fun one. Very fun. Very fun. But the Bulls, they have an issue at hand right now, presently, with Derrick Rose. He injured his left hamstring in their win tonight over the Raptors. So it just begs the question, what's going on with Derrick Rose? He's missed 2 years with huge injuries, ACL tear, and just ACL tear, and the injury that cost him the rest of the season last year after playing just 10 games. It's 10 games. Just what Bulls fans don't know what to expect at Derrick Rose. He's missed the last 2 years. He comes back this year. He says, "Oh, I'm healthy. I'm ready to go. I'm hyped and all." But then he has all these lingering injuries: sprained ankle, the other ankle is sprained, the hamstring now. Bulls fans are starting to get really antsy about this. I have a couple friends who are from Chicago that go to school in Chicago, and they're big time fans of the Bulls, and they're really upset. They just don't know what to do. They obviously they rely on the likes of Jimmy Butler and recently signed newly signed Paul Gasol, but Derrick Rose is the MVP. He was the MVP in 2010. They want to see the Derrick Rose that's an MVP caliber, and they're not seeing that. The points he's putting up some good points. 17.5 points per game right now, but it's not what the Bulls fans are expecting. Their standards are a little bit too high for Derrick Rose, who's coming off big time injuries, but at the same time, Derrick Rose has to pull his own weight. He had a good game against Detroit on Monday, scoring 24 points with 7 assists. But when does he start to break out into the form that he was in 2010, 2011? Maybe we will never see that ever again. Again, hypothetical, what if? But we'll just see how things go. But for right now, a left hamstring injury for Derrick Rose. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show with some football. I'm just going to take a look only at the AFC North, and I'll just give you a rundown who I think should make the playoffs out of each division in the NFC and in the AFC. I'll come back in about 30 seconds here on Spreaker.com in affiliation with the National Sports Radio Station.
Yo, Pan, you ready? Yeah. Man, let's lock and load. Yeah. Just blaze. Yeah. No, turn me up. Hey. I think we got one. Yeah. Here we go. Tell me, what do you see when you're looking at me? Whoa, whoa, whoa. On a mission to feed what I'm destined to feed. Whoa, whoa, hey, whoa. I done been through the pain and the sorrow, the struggle is nothing but love. Nothing but love. I'm a soldier, a rider, a ghetto survivor, and all the above. Hey. All the above. 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 All the above.
Welcome back to Pro Sports Outlook. My name is Steven Hughes for our final segment of Pro Sports Outlook here tonight on this November 13th night. The AFC North is absolutely astonishing. No one that I've heard thought that the Cleveland Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Cincinnati Bengals will all be first above 500 and second all in the race for the AFC North. Especially Cleveland. Cleveland, a team that has had great defense in the past couple seasons, but has never found the offense, aka they never found the quarterback to really find themselves, in a groove. They had Jason Campbell. They thought he was the answer, but he got hurt. And then comes in, and now here we go with Brian Hoyer. He gets injured. That really was devastating last year. Now he's back, but wait, before the season even started, Johnny Manziel got drafted, and a bunch of drama, a bunch of news, and just a bunch of ESPN covering on Johnny Manziel if he's going to win the QB battle or not. But Brian Hoyer has just made the quarterback discussion earlier on this year a distant memory. His numbers are not that it's not staggering. It's not like for example, it's not like Tom Brady